Hello, and welcome back to another episode of the Chronicles of Chase. This is a channel dedicated to creative writing and mostly science fiction and fantasy stories. Today I will be reading the 6th installment of the story series Naltithconet that has been premiering on this channel over the last couple of weeks. I keep thinking I'm going to get on a once every 2 or 3 days schedule, but as a teacher and writer and liver of life, I am finding that a hard schedule to keep. So I'm thinking these videos are going to release on about a weekly schedule, maybe a little bit quicker than the weekly schedule, about once every 5 days. So if you are on the lookout for part 7, please expect it by around Wednesday or Thursday of next week. And without further ado, I give you Naltithconet Part 6. Craig walks through the glass doors, left hand jammed into his pocket, clutching covetously at the stone as his right clutches the cool metal door handle. It feels like 1,000 spiders are dancing up and down his spine, but he tries to remain calm as he approaches the security checkpoint. It looks like any TSA entry point that Americans are so comfortable with and conditioned to be in, but this one was manned by a bunch of naval officers. Craig swallows as he approaches the metal detectors, mustering his best good morning and smile as he hands over his ID to the fresh-faced sailor on the other side of the podium. "Good morning, sir," she says with military efficiency, looking over his ID before she scans it into the machine. "Welcome to the United States Naval Academy. What is the reason for your visit today?" "I have a tour later today," Craig says, stumbling over his words as he pats his pockets in a mad search for his phone. Finally, he finds it and fishes it out of his pocket, pulling up a picture of the tickets he'd bought earlier that week. "You're a little early, aren't you?" the sailor across from him ventures, glancing back at the clock behind her before she stares back into Craig's face. "Yeah, I suppose I am," he responds, managing a sheepish grin and glancing down at her nameplate. "Officer Williams. I just didn't want to miss the tour, and I figured I could burn a little time with this," he finishes, gesturing to the paperback he has with him. He hopes the book, tickets, using her name, having a valid government ID, all of that will be enough. He still isn't sure about what comes next, though. "Well," she continues, "the yard and other areas of the campus will be open and available to you once your tour begins. Until then, you are welcome to visit the museum, gift shop, and anywhere else you would like to within the visitor's center. Please take all metal objects out of your pockets and step through." In that final sentence, Craig finds the guidance he has been hoping for. Everything metal. That settles it then, he thinks, as he drops his phone, wallet, and keys into the bin. Sure, the wallet wasn't metal, but Craig wasn't thinking of that in the rush of adrenaline that courses through his body. His mind is like a whirlpool, swirling wildly around the confluence of the little stone nestled in his pocket. The metal detector blares in his ears, sending his heart to his shoes. How can this be, he thinks, as he tries to hide the panic in his face, raising his eyebrows innocently as he turns back to face Officer Williams. Her face looks tired, her eyes trained on his midsection. "Your belt, sir," she says flatly, flooding Craig's body with relief. He undoes it quickly, sends the metal detector into fits once again as he walks backwards through it, hands over the belt, and walks through once again to blissful silence. His wallet, phone, keys, and belt come through the scanner without issue, and Craig takes his seat on a bench outside the gift shop with his book. He chances a quick fondle of the stone, trying to disguise it as an adjustment of his wallet, then opens up the copy of Nature that he has brought with him. For the first 90 minutes, Craig manages to do little else besides stare at the page before him, rereading the same line over and over again. Here again we are impressed and even daunted by the immense universe to be explored. What we know is a point to what we do not know. Ralph Waldo Emerson. Craig lets a mirthless laugh blow softly from his nostrils, glancing above the pages for what felt like the 100th time since he'd gotten here. He can't tell if the officers on duty were watching him, or if he was just paranoid. It occurs to Craig that Emerson's dry, erudite musings on nature and 19th century scientific disciplines may not have been the best time-burning material to bring, as he tries desperately to focus back in on the page, to get through it and move on to the next. The line about being daunted by the universe, about what we don't know, feels like a sick joke, crafted by a dead man for Craig in these last few weeks. Daunted doesn't even begin to describe it, he thinks with a small shake of his head and another caress of the stone in his pocket, disguised this time as rubbing of his thigh. Craig gives up on the process of reading, closing the book, and fishing his phone out of his pocket. After 15 minutes of mindless scrolling, he can take the pressure no longer, rising to peruse the gift shop in the museum. After what feels like an eternity, browsing little stuffed goats with yellow navy ends draped over their back, placards on the foundation of the academy, and the many service members and politicians who had walked the campus, Craig hears the call he has been waiting for. The 10 a.m. walk-in tour will begin in 10 minutes. All guests are asked to please meet at Gate 1 at Randall and St. George Street. Craig tries not to move too quickly, glancing up towards the door and strolling casually over, out and through the gate outside. He mills about in the cool fall air as people stream in around him, making him feel more anonymous, more secure. A child who hardly looks old enough to drive, much less serve in the military, walks up to the group with a confident nature as another announcement blares from the loudspeakers on campus. The 10 a.m. walk-in tour is starting. If you have a ticket, proceed to Gate 1 at Randall and St. George Street immediately. The midshipman looks around expectantly, scanning the area behind the group for any movement. Apparently not seeing any, he launches into his spiel. Hello, and welcome to the United States Naval Academy. I am Midshipman Hernandez, a junior biochemistry student and service member here on campus. I hope you all are ready for a tour full of information and full of walking. The words begin to blur together for Craig as the tour starts, and the group lumbers by historic building after historic building. The sun has come out, and it is glistening off of each and every white brick they pass. Officers' houses, Dahlgren and Bancroft Hall. It seems every building is made of the bricks, and the dazzling light seems to magnify in the crisp air. Craig can feel the beginnings of a migraine creep in between his temples as he fiddles with the stone in his pocket. Midshipmen pass in white caps and black uniforms, buttons dancing and shining from the dark. He's still unsure of what he is doing here, or when he is supposed to do whatever the hell he's supposed to do. But he knows he has to do something, and he's running out of time. To our left, we have Lejeune Hall. Housed in this complex are an Olympic-sized pool and a wrestling arena. The midshipmen of the Naval Academy have access for, the tour guide is saying in front of the group as the bay opens up before the walking group once again. The visitor center is off to the right, and the guide is looking like he is about to start wrapping the tour up. Now or never, Craig thinks to himself, as he mutters the goddess's names once more, clutching the stone so tightly he worries he may shatter it. Sedna, Atabe, Kawana, Guabanses, Chochiwatikwe, Tone Nali'i, Untumtahe. What was that? An elderly gentleman with a Navy veteran cap asks, looking with a shade of trepidation at Craig. Sedna, Atabe, Kawana, Guabanses, Chochiwatikwe, Tone Nali'i, Untumtahe, he says with more force, worried about breaking the spell. At the same time, he takes his hand from his pocket and hurtles the stone towards the bay. The group turns at the sound of his voice and ducks as if he has a bomb when the stone is thrown. It takes one skip on the ground, putting Craig's heart in his throat, for there's a concrete lip between the sidewalk and the water. The stone arcs towards the lip, clips it, then bounces into the water. Within seconds, Craig is surrounded on all sides. 5 different naval officers, guns drawn, are barking commands at him. He stands alone with the tour guide amongst the group, every other touree having dropped to the ground, and the commands run together. Craig's lizard brain takes over, following the commands as he can hear them. Put your hands up, get on the ground, put your hands behind your back, stand up. Craig has his hands zip-tied and is jerked up harshly, a naval officer putting their elbow between his shoulder blades as they guide him back the way he came, across the yard in a northeastern direction. "What did you just throw in there?" one asks, irate. Craig gives no response. "You're in a world of trouble, buddy," another offers, glaring from her flanking position. The person behind Craig yanks the zip ties and pushes him forward at a quicker pace as they approach a building in the far corner of campus. Craig glimpses a sign that says Hopper Hall as the group pushes him through the door, past many rooms buzzing with the blue light of computer screens, and into an elevator. The officer, near the control panel, pulls a key from his pocket, inserts it into the elevator, and looks back towards Craig. The door is shut, and the cage shudders and begins to drop, deep into the depths of the building's lower levels. As the elevator drops, Craig begins to utter a new mantra, unspoken on his lips since he had been in the sea dungeon, but thought of constantly. He says the serpent's name with a conviction and a wrath that terrifies him. "Unkala, Unkala, Unkala." One of the officers cuffs him in the back of the head, offering a gruff "stop it." But Craig continues chanting the name, rising to a deep and strenuous tilt as the elevator opens, and he is shoved down a dank hallway and into a cell with a heavy steel door and a narrow slit at eye level. "Unkala, Unkala, Unkala," Craig continues as the door clangs shut and the light of the world is reduced to a rectangle upon the stone floor. That has been part 6 of Naltithconet. I hope you'll tune in for part 7. And if you like what you hear, please like and subscribe, as always. This has been the Chronicles of Chase. Thank you so much for listening.